Hi guys, it's a Zeus_Persassy's uncle. I am back with another fanfic. I'm so sorry how long it's been. I've been busy with school, and if you hear any background noise, ignore it. It is my brother playing Fortnite and him probably going to rage quit, or some of my siblings or family getting home. So please ignore any of that. I'm sorry, I'm not good with editing out background noise. But I think it's time we should get into this. This is the Progeny God by homosexuality_@_its_finest. So, yeah, let's get into it. When Izuku Midoriya was born into the world, it was on a day of downpour. July 15th, the boy came into the world, his wails rattling the windows and bursting the light bulbs in every delivery room. His screams made the staff's ears bleed, and they could taste misfortunes to come. The only one left unaffected was his mother, Inko Midoriya. As soon as she cradled her baby boy to her chest, his crying had ceased, and as his crying ceased, as did the rain. The staff had backed away from this child, the child who annoyingly held divine power and made the world shift to his whims. When Midoriya Izuku opened his eyes for the first time, it was like looking into a supernova. His eyes held thousands of dying galaxies while birthing them anew. His tired muse had the plant life in a 30-foot vicinity suddenly burst with life once more. Even if it was already decomposing, he held the power to cause life and death in his tiny and fertile hands. July 15th, when Midoriya Izuku was birthed, a young god was born. When Midoriya at the young age of 5, it was known back in their neighborhood that Midoriya Izuku was not entirely human. He was far from too graceful and otherworldly, especially for a child. His tantrums would cause plants to die, ears and eyes to bleed, and thousands thunderous storms to roll in with no warning. When the child laughed, it was as if the wind and trees laughed with him. Animals chittered, and the sun shone brightly, reflecting the boy's inner workings. On occasions, he would find dead animals, and when he'd weep for them, the animals would miraculously come back to life, acting as if it had never crossed between the lines of life and death. Adults and children alike were terrified of Midoriya Izuku, for he was not human. He was something vaguely human-shaped, posing as a child and controlling the world to his whims. Katsuki Bakugo refused to even approach the boy, much to his mother's anger. Everything in his 5-year-old body told him Midoriya Izuku was something dangerous and to be feared. The only child brave enough to befriend Izuku was a young boy named Shinzo Hitoshi. Hitoshi, unlike all the others, was curious about Izuku. He could stare into the other child's eyes for hours and watch the birth of new galaxies. He could taste the victories when Izuku giggled. He didn't mind the effects of Izuku's tantrums, nor did his daddy or papa, who supervised most of their playdates. Midoriya Inko loved her son more than anything, and being a single mother, she had a lot to work shifts, so Daddy and Papa offered to watch Izuku when she had to work, which was most of the time. Not that Hitoshi minded at all. He loved spending time with his best friend, and as a 5-year-old, there was nothing better in the world than getting to spend every day with Izuku rolling around in the mud and playing. Hitoshi was never scared of Izuku, except for when people were mean to Hitoshi. Then Izuku became very, very scary. Such an instance had been during preschool. 2 boys who were ostracized from their peers were playing by themselves by the slides. Izuku with his all-white figurine and Hitoshi with his present mic figure. Izuku had given it to him when he found out who his papa was, and it was his prized possession. The two 5-year-olds were giggling to themselves as they played, the sun shining directly on the pair as animals scurried over to them once in a while, demanding attention and occasionally bringing gifts for Izuku as if he were their king. Their game was interrupted by Katsu, Bakugo, Tsubasa, Tasuke. The three boys towered over the pair and a sneer on Bakugo's lips. "I heard your quirk developed, Shinzo," the ash blonde stated, tone holding clear disdain. Hitoshi tipped his head to the side, not understanding what was going on. Papa and Daddy were ecstatic when his quirk developed, and Izuku hadn't stopped questioning him since. What about it? "You have a villainous quirk. I bet your parents are disappointed," Tsubasa spat out, making both the Bakugo Tasaki bark out in a cruel laughter. Hitoshi couldn't help but feel his eyes watered slightly, bottom lip quivering. Izuku was suddenly in front of Hitoshi faster than humanly possible. Hitoshi swore that his feet weren't even on the ground, and if he had squinted, there was a pair of golden wings that splayed across his back. "Shut up! Hitoshi is going to be an amazing hero, unlike you guys," Izuku cried out, his brows furrowing and storm clouds rolling in. As the sunshine that had previously been disappearing as the young child of the stars became anger. "Huh? What did you say, Deku?" The demanding name tumbled out of Bakugo's mouth, and Izuku's eyes blazed with fury. A smile far too unsettling to be sat on a child's face spread across his lips. His teeth looked too sharp, and there were too many, but Hitoshi had never seen anything more breathtaking. "I said Hitoshi will be a better hero than either of you three." Izuku took a step forward, and as he stepped forward, and as the world shook beneath his foot, "You three are boys who will never be good heroes, and that's if you get into a hero school. Now leave Hitoshi alone." Izuku spat those words out, and Bakugo took a step back, eyes widening at whatever he saw in Izuku. The two boys on the side let out shrieks, crying out "monster" as they fled from the pair, leaving Bakugo behind. In Izuku's eyes, Bakugo could see all of his failures, his pain, and disappointments, and never had he been so scared. The blonde quivered as he cried out obscenities, dashing away from Izuku, who didn't look even slightly bothered. His gaze returned to Hitoshi and gave him a sunshine smile, falling to his knees beside his best friend. "Are you okay, Toshi? What they said wasn't true. You're going to make an amazing hero." Hitoshi could only nod mutely, leaning into his best friend's touch, eyes struck on the golden wings flickering in and out of existence behind Izuku's back. Izuku was a young god, awakening, and Hitoshi was his first devoted follower. Midoriya Izuku was a conundrum. That was Kachi Namasa's first thought on the kid, born July 15th of 20XX, a day known for having one of the worst storms in the past decade in Japan, and it had just suddenly stopped. It had been a mystery to the meteorologist, and here he was reading reports of the doctors from that evening that when Midoriya had finally cradled against his mother's chest and had stopped crying as did the rain. If Namasa hadn't read and seen weirder, he'd call bullshit, but he'd also just met the kid. And honestly, yeah, that sounds about right. Backtracking a bit, Namasa had just been called to a convenience store robbery because apparently some rather odd circumstances, and they needed his quirk to confirm stories. He could feel the migraine building before he even approached the ambulances where the victims awaited him. When he got to the witness was the criminals who had tried to rob the store at gunpoint. The green-haired kid, Midoriya, had approached the men and oddly asked for their deepest regrets. Before they could even reply, the three men who were trying to rob the store were on the ground, screaming and clawing at their faces, bodies, etc. Said men had been sent immediately to the hospital, and he'd been questioned once they were more lucid, and would be questioned once they were more lucid. The last person he could question before wrapping this up for the night was the boy in question, who was sitting at the ambulance, calm as ever. Now Masa wished she had vodka, but pushed that thought to the back of his head as he approached the kid. Hey Midoriya, I'm Detective Sakuchi. Is everything alright? Is it fine if I ask you some questions? The green-haired boy looked up at Namasa and paused. Looking into the eyes was like looking into the carcasses of a dying star. He held unthinkable knowledge in the endless depths of his eyes, and a primal part of Namasa's brain urged and begged at him to run away from the kid, whose every part of his body was now on edge. Of course, Sakuchi-san. The boy bowed his head politely, giving the most timid smile. Nomasa swallowed thickly, pushing down his instance and sat across from the kid. All right, can I ask you your name? Sorry, kiddo, it's for procedure. Izuku Midoriya, sir. All right, now can you tell me what happened in the store? Well, those men came in and they were waving guns at the cashier, so I approached them as their deepest regrets. I knew they wouldn't answer, so I gave them a mild case of temporary insanity while they were confused. True. What the fuck? Namasa didn't get paid enough for this shit. Okay, what's your quirk, Midoriya? Is it a temporary insanity? Oh, no, I don't have a quirk. True. The migraine veiled behind Namasa's eyes. The kid hadn't lied, so how the fuck did he manage to make these men go insane? Then how did you induce a bout of temporary insanity? He questioned, confusion lacing his tone. Oh, Mama says I take after my papa. True. Okay, and what does your dad do? I'm not sure. My mama doesn't talk about him a lot. She said that he had to go home to the stars. True. Ah, so the father passed away. Namasa hummed softly, closing his writing pad. All right, Midoriya, if I have any more questions, I'll contact your mother. Namasa bowed with his head politely, standing up. Midoriya reached a hand out, wrapping it around Namasa's waist. Please be careful, Detective Sakuchi. The streets are overflowing with miscreant beings. With the ominous goodbye, Namasa took his leave, mind stuck on the green-haired child, whom he encountered regularly from that point forward. But that was for future Namasa to deal with. The next day, Namasa was shot while pursuing a suspect in a child trafficking case, and his mind went straight to the child's words. Midoriya Izuku and Shinzo Hitoshi entered the UA's hero course together, with one with the non-combative quirk and one with no quirk at all, but was a young god with Eldritch powers. The quirk assessment test had been interesting to say the least, with Bakugo glowering at the air the entire time, and Ida, Uraraka, Sue, Tokuyami, and Todoroki all slowly making their way over to them throughout the test. Hitoshi had used his quirk whenever possible, brainwashing his fellow classmates to aid him in the test, such as Ida picking him up and running him across the 15-meter dash, or Uraraka doing his ball, and Izuku just terrified his new classmates. I'm so sorry, my siblings just got home, so you are hearing background noises, I'm assuming. Sorry. Anyways, back to the thing. When it came for the ball throw, which was Izuku had looked at the ball, then at their sensei, and grinned widely. Their sensei had let out a groan, muttering about problem children and should just expel him. The green-eyed teenager had been holding the ball, took a deep breath, and then the ball was just gone. It had blipped out of existence. Aizawa had tiredly shown his infinity symbol, still muttering under his breath as Hitoshi laughed, bouncing up to his friend. Izu, you got first place. The indigo-eyed boy cheered. Bumping shoulders with his friend, Todoroki nodded in agreement. I'm unsure how you did so, but good job, Midoriya, he congratulated solemnly. Tokuyami was just staring at the young god with wide eyes, hands trembling with excitement. That was very confusing, Midoriya. Would you perhaps show me more of your powers later? Sure, Tokuyami. Izuku grinned. widely at the Avon, making him swoon slightly from the god's attention. Never in all of Tokiyami's wildest dreams had he thought he'd be able to meet a living, breathing god. Yet here Midoriya was. That was impressive, girl. Sue spoke up, voice monotone, but a bit of a smile on her lips. I wouldn't expect any from less than the one who took down the 0-pointer. Ida cried out, chopping his hands robotically, making Hitoshi pause, turning his face to his best friend. I'm sorry, you did what, Izu? See, Izuku may be a young god, but he still cowered in the face of Hitoshi's wrath, and wisely chose to flee. Well, look at the time. I gotta go, Izuku darted, ignoring his friend's indignant cries from behind him. Tokiyami nodded gravely, speaking up. Shinzo is a formidable foe for a young god. The USJ, to put it lightly, was a goddamn catastrophe. Things could have gone much worse if it wasn't for Izuku there. But the point still stands that the villains were able to break into UA with the intent to kill them. The next day had started normally enough. Tokiyami, Hitoshi, Uraraka, Ida, Sue, and Todoroki followed Izuku around like lost puppies. Tokiyami gifting Izuku small snacks and trinkets throughout their morning, which had become a normal for the proclaimed Izuku Squad, or Izu Squad for short. He said something about appeasing my young god, but Izuku was too flustered to really pay attention to his words. Back on track, the day had went normally. They had all gone for the morning classes, and after lunch, they loaded onto the bus to head to a mystery location, only knowing it was for a rescue training. The close-knit group of friends sat together towards the front of the bus, happily conversing with one another, ignoring the absolute foul looks from Bakugo sending their way. Sue had spoken up, asking a question everyone had been thinking. Midoriya, what's your quirk exactly? And the young god had dropped an absolute bomb on them. Oh, I don't have one. Just like that, the class had exploded with questions, denials, and overall had become a madhouse. Not even Aizawa's glare could have calmed the hell class down. What do you mean, Curl? What are your powers then? Oh, well, my mom says that my papa was one with the stars. Technically, I'd be a demigod. I guess that's what Toshi says. The green-haired teenager rubbed the back of his neck meekly, cheeks flushed as he ducked his head down as the bus was in uproar once more. Hitoshi rubbed his leg soothingly, and Todoroki kept sending sympathetic glances, but Tokiyami was the only one who really caught his attention. Of course he's a demigod. Why do you think I've been giving him gifts and worshipping him? If we give him gifts, then he grants his luck. The Avon spoke up over the crowd. Dark Shadow parked her head out, hovering over her other half shoulder. What Fumi said! The progeny god grants us luck. Izuku was once more bright red and waving his hands around frantically, flushed at the idea of somebody worshipping it. Shit, if it'll grant us luck. Kaminari stepped forward, taking off his necklace before handing it to Izuku, bowing slightly. Everyone on the bus quickly followed suit, handing the young god various items as gift. Oddly enough, Izuku felt more powerful. Felt the power of the cosmos course through his veins, stronger than ever. Even Aizawa had stepped forward, gifting Izuku a jelly packet, which he happily sucked down. The only one who refused to give Izuku anything was Bakugo, who was glowering in the back, not having moved from his seat. Izuku paid attention to the other boy, no mind. Bakugo may have been too scared to bully Izuku, but he bullied Hitoshi, and that put him on the god shit list. The bus had arrived within minutes of the USJ giving. The bus had arrived minutes after the gift giving. Izuku tucking his gifts into his pouches of his belt, cheeks still flushed as his friends followed behind him. He listened intently as 13 talked, but something in his gut was screaming at him that something was wrong. Green eyes swerved the USJ Plaza before landing on a fountain where purple mist began to swirl and hundreds of people stepped out. He called out to Aizawa, eyes never straying from the mystery people. Aizawa-sensei, people are to the front of the foundation. What's going on? He slid his hand out, holding back Bakugo, who had taken an overconfident step forward. The blonde tried to slap his hand away, but one sharp look shut him up. Stay back. 13, protect the students. Midoriya, do your thing. Izuku nodded, a slightly feral grin spreading across his face as his eyes gleamed. Thunder rumbled and shook the entire USJ, making the ground shift under their feet. Everyone that can, get the fuck out of here. You're out of the front doors. Ida, take everyone you can. Same with you, 13. You guys aren't gonna want to see this. The teenager's voice held a tone that was commanding enough to make everyone, including every pro hero, hesitate to deny him anything. In the end, they listened, Ida fleeing with Uraraka, Kaminari, Sue, and Tokiyami, while 13 was able to shoo Ojiro, Koda, and Toru before the doors struck closed with a resounding bang. The green Nettie couldn't help but sigh in relief. It was much easier to look after 11 classmates rather than 19 and 2 pro heroes. Midoriya, whatever you're gonna do it now, 13 called out, causing the teenage boy to nod. Toshi, you know what to do. Everyone close your eyes and cover your ears unless you want them to start bleeding. The purple tired teen called out, taking his own advice. All of the Hero Corps students following suit as Izuku cracked his knuckles. The Misty Man arrived at the stairs and was embarrassingly easy for Izuku to take out. Honestly, all he had to do was do some emotional shenanigans with his body. Aka, he took the parts out of his body into other dimensions and left them there. Misty Man was now missing 2 arms and a leg, and boom, the dude was down for the count. With Misty Man down, Izuku headed down the stairs, sending criminals into pockets of space without mercy. Were they suffocating and imploding without spacesuits? Absolutely. He ruined his rescue training. It's fair game now. He spotted the abomination against his dad. Ha! Get it? 'Cause his dad's a god. Standing next to a hand-kink-looking motherfucker with wrinkled his nose. He could smell the bloodlust and misery coming off the guy. He was gonna live a sad life and die a tragic death. Hey, hand kink, what the fuck are you doing? He called out, using his wings, which only Toshi could see without his eyes bleeding apparently. Aizawa once saw them and had to be hospitalized. To drift over the crowd of villains, landing nimbly in front of the 2 monsters. Said monster angrily scratched his neck. I am here to kill All Might, you NPC. Well, he ain't here, mission failed. God, you annoying little pest. And Hank scratched more violently at his own neck. Nomu, kill him. Nomu, which was now identified as monster number 2, came charging at Izuku, but it was pretty easy to behead it with divine powers, as Toshi called it, and smashed the head in, making sure it didn't get back up. As you were saying? Izuku raised an eyebrow, leaning against the edge of the fountain. What did you do to my Nomu? It was supposed to kill All Might. I killed it. I released the several souls residing within the poor beast. Kink lunged for him, but Izuku dodged with ease. His green eyes shone with sinister knowledge. You, Tomura Shigaraki, are going to die a painful and lonely death, betrayed by your sensei and left by your league. You will have no one to blame but yourself. Will all that death and carnage be worth it? You'll only know regret, and you will never find happiness. The uprise you're hoping for will never happen. Your dreams will fail. Are you prepared for that? A cruel smile spread across Izuku's lips as his eyes as the shrinking boy in front of him. Go ahead and run back to your master like the good puppy you are, Tinko. As he said that, gray sludge poured from the boy's mouth, wrapping around the hideout of All for One. Not that anyone but Izuku knew that, of course. He turned around, seeing his sensei and classmates had taken out the rest of the villains and let out a little hum, heading for the tangled mess of purple hair in the crowd of students. Immediately, he crashed against Toshi's side, mumbling incoherently as his nose and shoulder. Said boy let out a loud chuckle, running his fingers through his curls. Good job, Izuku. You kicked their asses. Sorry if you can tell any of the cuts. After the USJ, his classmates took to worshipping him seriously, which was both odd and incredibly embarrassing for Izuku. Hell, even some of the other classes has caught on and joined in. Izuku now had an outstanding collection of 32 necklaces, 21 bracelets, 48 rings, 4 hats, 7 shirts, 3 hoodies, and that's not even giving in to them giving him food, burning candles in his name, praying to him, etc. He, of course, very deeply appreciated everything they gave him, switched out jewelry on a daily basis so he could wear all of it, and felt more powerful than ever. But at the same time, he felt really weird. Is this how his dad felt? The first time anyone ever prayed to him and actually made a request, it had been Yaozu. He had just been hanging at home, vibing, when he suddenly heard his classmate's voice in his head and almost screamed. He was still getting used to it, okay? Said girl was praying, rather embarrassed about the situation, for him to take care of a boy in general education named Mineta, who kept harassing herself and multiple other girls, and would not take no for an answer, but had been taking it too far today by looking up her skirt after school. To put it into perspective, school was canceled the next day because the streets were flooded tornado jump for the previous evening. The day after staying home from school, Izuku stormed into UA like a man on a mission, and no one dared to stop the young god on a warpath, not even the teachers. He knew who Mineta was and had hoped that he'd be expelled by now, but it seemed that he needed to take matters into his own hands, and that was fine. It wasn't the first time, and he knew damn well it wouldn't be the last time either. He spotted the wretched pest waiting close to the girls' bathroom, close to the heroics classrooms. The scowl on Izuku's face deepening. He lured over to the smaller boy before speaking, arms crossed over his chest. Hello, Mineta. What do you think you're doing? Oh, Midoriya, right? I'm just trying to check out the hot babes. When I join, Izuku's nose scrunched up in disgust. How could this little piss baby get into a fine school like UA? Absolutely not. Here's what's gonna happen, Mineta. Izuku wrapped a hand around the back of the surgeon's neck. You're going to waddle yourself down to Principal Nazu's office and tell him everything you've done to harass our female students, or I'm gonna make you, and trust me, you're really not gonna like the second option. He gave Mineta a smile that was far too sharp and way too many teeth, and mayhaps allowed his eyes to gleam, but the dying universe is more than normal, causing the boy to shudder and tears well up in his eyes. Okay, just let me go, you freak. Izuku obeyed and let him go, but leaned down so only the little fucker could hear him. Oh, and if you ever harass one of our female classmates again, well, no one will find your body. They don't worship me as a god for nothing. He gave Mineta one last smile before departing for class. The last he heard, Mineta withdrew from UA High. Yaozu gifted him an expensive bottle of whiskey as an offering the next day. Don't judge him. Gods are known for having their healthy appetite for alcohol. The sports festival came and went, and the only thing Izuku was truly focused on was murdering Todoroki Enji, a.k.a. Endeavor, a.k.a. an abusive piece of shit that abuses his children and wife and possibly killed one of his own children. Izuku had to regain with himself during the sports festival, or he would have ruined it for everybody else, and it was worth it to see everyone happy afterwards, but fuck, he was so angry. He could burn civilizations to the ground. He was supposed to hang out with Toshi after the festival, but his best friend took one look at him and offered to hang out tomorrow. Thank fuck for that, because here Izuku is, having murdered the number 2 hero by sending his ass into a black hole, with Shoto's permission, of course. He isn't a monster, and is now going through the legal side of getting him under their custody with his mother at 2 a.m. the following day, whom is taking the entire situation like a chance. That's what happens when you raise a demigod, he supposes. The Todoroki family reports him missing, and since Inko has a foster license, she takes Shota in without any issue. Now the only awkward situation is explaining all this to Utoshi, whom he's supposed to be meeting at 3 later today. Izuku isn't going down alone. He's bringing Shota with him. Utoshi, of course, his best friend, knows something is up, and Izuku, who says he wants to meet Utoshi's favorite cafe and offer to pay for everything. He's only more suspicious when Todoroki Shota is accompanying his best friend, who looks rather nervous. Izuku has his favorite drink prepared beforehand. Alright, you little shit, what did you do? Izuku let out in the internet squad before muttering something under his breath. What was that? You want to speak up, Izuku? I may or may not have murdered the number 2 hero for being an abusive piece of shit. Izuku cries out quietly in one breath. Hitoshi slams his head on the table so hard he got a concussion. They had to go to a little adventure to the hospital for that. When they got back to the Yamazawa household, there was a 2-hour-long lecture about why you can't murder the number 2 hero. Even if they are pieces of shit, Shota was not left out of the lecture. Both boys looked like scolded puppies when Aizawa called the 3 boys out for dinner. Secretly, Hitoshi was proud of Izuku for protecting his followers. Not that he would say that out loud. Shinzo Hitoshi honestly didn't mean to stumble across the hero killer stain. Ida, a native Hosu, was a fucking war zone. With all the nomus, the civilians in need of help, and everything else going on, he had been on his way to a meetup point with his dad when he stumbled across the alley and knew this was way out of his league, and sent his coordinates to Izuku. He laid low in the shadows, observing and listening to everything the hero killer was spouting about. Apparently, Ida had hunted him down to avenge his brother, which, yeah, it wasn't super heroic, but they were also 15-year-old kids who had time to grow and become better. Hitoshi's thought process was cut off by someone landing beside him, making him jump, were it not for a grounding hand on his shoulder. Toshi, I'm going to distract Stain. I want you to get Ida and Native. Call Eraser and tell him know about the situation. Let him know I'll need backup. I don't think they'll be happy if I roughed him out too much. Toshi nodded mutely in confirmation and watched as his best friend, the boy he loved more than anything in the world, tackled the hero killer before he could, kill Ida. The indigo-eyed boy here dragged Ida out of the alley, then Native, before dragging his phone out of his pocket, texting his dad the coordinates in the situation, all but demanding backup before rushing into the alley. Now that there wasn't anyone in harm's way, Izuku wasn't holding back. His wings flared out defensively behind him, eyes glowing more so than usual, and a wide grin across his lips that even Hitoshi's primal brain screaming for him to run away. He didn't do that. He was stuck to the floor of the alleyway, staring at his best friend in awe. He'd never get over how beautiful Izuku was, even with being covered in blood and vice versa. He was angelic, otherworldly. Hitoshi watched as Izuku used a tentacle to impale Stain's side, slamming him against the wall, breathing heavily. Christ, just stay down. Never, you fake. Izuku snarled at the hero killer, eyes flaring. Rest easy, Akuro Chizomi, the teenager hissed out, slamming him against the wall one more time, causing the hero killer to finally fall limp in his hold. Izuku picked some zip ties out of his pockets, wrapping them around his wrists and ankles before turning to Hitoshi. That fucking sucked! Izuku whined out, softly burying his face in Hitoshi's chest. Hitoshi let out a dry chuckle, fingers instinctively running through messy curls. I'm sure it did, but you kicked his ass, he replied smoothly. Izuku hummed before pulling back to point to a cut in his bottom lip. Kiss it better? He asked, a fake innocent look on his face. Hitoshi sputtered, cheeks flushing bright red. Izuku! Come on, Toshi, please. Instead of replying, the purple-haired boy leaned down, pressing a kiss on the smaller boy's lips. It was a chest to peck, but after one kiss, he leaned down for another, and another, and another. Neither boy could get enough. Hitoshi ended up cupping Izuku's cheeks while Izuku wrapped his arms around his neck. They kissed and kissed until both of them were purple from lack of oxygen. Only then, relenting, Hitoshi rested his forehead against Izuku's, a smile on his lips. I love you, Izuku, and I'm really happy I approached you when we were 5. I'll always be your devoted follower. I love you too, Toshi, and I'm happy you weren't scared of the weird eldritch kid who could raise the dead. I promise I'll be the best demigod I can be. He placed one more chaste kiss on his lips. Above the boys, the stars smiled and twinkled down at the distant pair. The Progeny god and his Cardile Akodi. Yeah, okay. Okay, and that is it. I know I did not say all that right, but then again, I'm a child who does not understand this stuff. This was a really good fic, I must say, and I love the ship at the end that I really actually wasn't expecting. Maybe I should read this fic instead first before I actually read them, and probably should have read the text, but I just decided it would be a good thing to read. This was about 5,000 words, and definitely a good fic if you want to go and try to read it. They said this would be part 1 of the series, but sadly they have not posted in about 2 years, so I hate to burst your bubble. I don't know if you can hear all that clicking in the background, but that's just me editing something.
Playing from desktop F1 F8 Vic.
Do you see what my Alexa does? I am so sorry. I would say, though, this is a great fic. If anyone is confused about the word progeny and probably thought it meant prodigy, no, that is not it. This actually means offspring, such as offspring, descendant, and outcomes, followers, and a bunch of other stuff. A bunch of things about healthcare, luck, and other just crazy things. But, yeah. The main ones, though, are definitely offspring, descendants, followers, and health. Those are, like, the main things they are deprived off of. So, this was definitely a great fic, though, and I was not expecting the ending. So, I suggest you go and read some of the stuff from Homosexuality at its Finest. It is a great author, and I love him. I'll have to read some more of them because, oh, wow. Their last fanfic actually was about Vigilante Izuku, so I think you should go and read some of their fics. They're really good. All of this is on AO3 if you want to find it. And yeah, hope you all have a good day, my dear hummingbirds. Goodbye.